Okay, so in this video, we are taking a look at the all-new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5. By the way, some people seem to think that this is not much of an upgrade from the Z Fold 4. Are they correct in this assessment? I'll tell you everything about this. First things first, the price. The all-new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5 here will run you $1799 for the base unit, so 256 gigs of internal storage. And of course, if you did pre-order when I was encouraging you guys to do so, then you probably took advantage of the upgrade and got the 512 gigs of internal storage for that same $1799. And by the way, the Z Fold 4, when it dropped, was also $1799. But anyway, you have a few options when it comes down to the variant. You have up to 5 different colors or different variants here. There's the icy blue, you have the cream, you have the phantom black, you have a blue, and you have this gray that I have here, which I absolutely love, especially the way it contrasts with this carbon, like dark gray that you have on the side here. Very, very nice. Now, hopping right into the heart of this video here, is the Z Fold 5 the same as the Z Fold 4? Of course not. Obviously, still a foldable, right? Except with the Z Fold 5 here, you no longer have the gap that exists on the Z Fold 4, which is a massive improvement from the Z Fold 4 to this one, because it means less particles, getting stuck in between both of those displays there. And Samsung also supported this by stating that the hinge has been greatly improved because now you have less moving parts there, making the fact that the phone is IPX rated even more efficient, right? So you have even less particle getting stuck there, even less chances of water drops and those particles to get, into that hinge and messing up your phone. So that's definitely one of the major or one of the biggest improvements that you will see here. Now, you still have that same skinny front, right, on the display there, the same skinny front that we have on the Galaxy Z Fold 4 here. And then when you open, of course, that same gigantic 7.6 inches display. So it's essentially the same form factor, but the 5 here is actually 10 grams lighter than the Z Fold 4. And on top of that, you will notice that it's boxier than what we have with the previous generation here, making it even more grippable. You can have it really just dig into the palm of your hand, so chances of you dropping the phone will be super low. All of this added to the fact that there's no gap. It does sit flush, right? So like I said, it sits very flush now with no gap when the phone is closed. That also means that it's thinner, right? So it can sit in your pocket and be a bit more comfortable than what the Z Fold 4 has to offer. So just recapping here, just in terms of design alone, right? So a thinner phone, no gap there, and boxier shape, so that kind of digs in your hand. So user experience in terms of just holding the form factor here, it just feels a bit more improved, along with the hinge, which also has been improved. And you can feel it even just by opening the phone. It is crazy smooth. It's steady. It holds very, very steady as you open it. So you could definitely tell that it was improved. Now, I want to look back to that front display here. If you were aware at all of the new Pixel Fold, then you probably know that the skinny display of the Z Fold series actually was highlighted a lot more when the Pixel Fold came out with a larger outer display. And by the way, making, that user experience, at least off of the front display, very, very nice. I actually have it here. I had to pause the video to go get it. So the Pixel Fold here does such a fantastic job with this outer display. And of course, you see the superior display of the Samsung Fold when you open that up. But anyways, I just brought that up because coming from the Pixel Fold here, because this is one of the 2 phones that I was using, the skinny display there, it's a lot more amplified here because I had gotten used to that larger outer display on the Pixel Fold. Nonetheless, the front display on the Z Fold 5 is usable. It's still the same user experience you were getting on the Z Fold 4, right? So it's pretty skinny. It gets kind of tricky, typing on that front display, right? So you may have to use, like swipe in order to go ahead and type text, or maybe use voice dictation in order to go ahead and type something up. But you're always better off just opening it and using the inside display on this. I mean, Samsung is still #1 when it comes down to just the inside display here and the user experience that it has to offer. And what you have here is pretty much the same display as the one that you have on the Z Fold 4, except, a couple of things that are different, right? It's still 7.6 inches. It's a dynamic AMOLED display. Of course, it does support, up to 120 hertz refresh rate. It does support HDR10+. The resolution on it is 1812 by 2160, just like it was the case with the Z Fold 4. So for the PPI here, we're looking at 373. That is really, really dense, meaning that, image quality is very, very sharp, especially because, it's an OLED display with your inky blacks, inky reds. You're imagining, it being super dense like that. Beautiful inside display here. Also, it is even higher when it comes down to brightness. You're looking at 1750 nits of brightness. The front, of course, is also still an OLED display, or dynamic AMOLED display, I should say. It does support 120, up to 120 hertz refresh rate. It's a beautiful display to play with. Let's go ahead and jump into just the platform, right? That's one of the main differentiator between this and the Z Fold 4. On here, you have the latest from Qualcomm, which is their flagship chipset, right? So we have a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 here, and that is coupled with 12 gigs of RAM, which is, plenty, more than plenty for most people out there. So in terms of just user experience, when it comes down to performance, zero complaints so far, but I can tell you that it feels snappier than, you know, the previous gen, than the Z Fold 4. Obviously, you have to put them side by side in order to be able to notice the difference. If you own a Z Fold 4 right now, you know, you shouldn't just upgrade to this because you want to grab something that is just marginally snappier than what you have there. And of course, if you just want to upgrade to the Z Fold 5, obviously, you know, just be my guest. But if you were to ask what my recommendation is, you know, whether you should upgrade from the Z Fold 4 to the Z Fold 5, I would say no, you don't need to. Going back to that inside display here, this thing is just built for One UI. One UI, you have One UI sitting here on Android 13, right? One UI 5.1.1 sitting on Android 13, and so far, experience has been fantastic. This, you know, when they make this phone, they have One UI, you know, in mind. Samsung really does a fantastic job, you know, customizing on making it so that it feels like One UI is truly tailored for this phone. Of course, we'll still have those issues where you have some apps that just don't scale, you know, properly. They don't scale up properly. But in terms of the phone itself, the build quality and the way it's supposed to work, it is top notch. This is definitely a phone that if you like to be on cutting edge of technology, you should definitely go ahead and pick up. Multitasking here has been just fantastic. I mean, many people who buy this phone do so because of multitasking, right? Because it takes your productivity to another level. You know, you do have access to Samsung DeX all here also, so you're able to connect this on a computer or maybe an external display and work on it as if you were working on a computer or on a laptop, right? It truly takes that productivity to another level. And still sticking with software here, you have to keep in mind that Samsung, of course, will support this at up to 5 years, right? So 4 years for major upgrades and 5 years for security updates. I've also done some gaming here, and gaming on the Z Fold 5 here is just like gaming on Z Fold 4, right? But anyway, so gaming on here is better than gaming on your typical, you know, phone, right? No crashes, no lags, performance has been top notch. Watching movies here, I mentioned earlier, you know, the dynamic AMOLED display, watching movies here or just videos in general, so nice. Even outside when it's bright outside, right? It's still a nice display to watch. I mentioned earlier that, you know, the brightness, this thing could go up to 1750 nits. That is very bright and bright enough for you to be able to comfortably use it outside. Now, in terms of camera, I know some of you guys are going to be disappointed because it's the same cameras as what we had last year on the Z Fold 4, except, you know, with the updates, you get a slightly improved picture quality, right? I've noticed that in low light situations, you actually get pretty decent shots off of this camera, slightly better than what you had with the previous year. But you also have to keep in mind that when it comes down to just the type of camera that you have here, it's a flagship camera. You will be getting very good pictures coming out of this phone here. Now let's go ahead and talk battery. What you have here is the same battery size that you had on the Z Fold 4, which is 4400 milliamp. The past 4 days that I've been using the phone, obviously it's still using, you know, still learning my usage or my habits, the way I use my phone, so that I can properly, you know, customize, you know, battery or, you know, energy allocation. So far, I don't really have any complaints. It will also depend on how you use your phone. So if you tend to use just the front display there, the battery is going to last a while. If you use the, you know, the display on the inside a lot more, then obviously the battery life will be shorter. But so far, again, I have no complaints. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about here is going to be the S Pen. It's been improved. The design change, it's skinnier, as you can see here, and it has these two flat sides. I'm assuming for you to be able to, you know, properly hold it. It actually reminds me a lot of my Galaxy S23 Ultra S Pen, right? So it's thinner. Now, I haven't used it a lot, but, you know, smaller pens like this, if you haven't watched the channel for a while, then you probably know that I have large hands. Generally, small pens or styluses like this don't feel very comfortable in my hands. I mean, this one is not bad. You know, even just the texture makes it so that it's kind of grippy, you know, you could kind of really hold it and be able to take down notes and all that good stuff. I personally am not one to use an S Pen on the phone or a stylus on the phone that often. I do use it on my S23 Ultra, but not as much, simply because I'm always carrying, you know, a tablet. So far, my experience with this has been, you know, okay, right? It's the same type of function that you have on the S Pen from last year. And then, of course, you have this new case here along with the place where to store the S Pen there. I'm hoping that they'll be able to, you know, maybe next year or the year after, hopefully next year, they make it so that you have an S Pen chamber somewhere, so that you could just go ahead and stick the S Pen in there like we do with the S23 Ultra. You could just go ahead and stick it there. It'll be a bit more, although this is not bad actually. You know, it's pretty subtle. You don't get that same big bump that we had on the Z Fold 4 case, right? So it's actually comfortable, you know, to hold there. Now that's gonna be it for my review here. And before I close the video, you do have new cases, obviously, you know, to go along with the new phone here. And I like this one. It's a sleek design. It feels comfortable in the hand because the phone no longer has that gap. It just feels, you know, it feels thinner in the hands when compared to that of last year. But anyway, so here's my take. If you currently own the Galaxy Z Fold 4, you should not upgrade to the Z Fold 5 unless, of course, you just wanna, right? And you want to experience what it is like. And the other part of my take is that this phone is actually pretty different from the Z Fold 4, despite what everyone out there want to say, right? The hinge, like I said, it feels sturdy, it feels smooth. You got a boxier design here, no gap when you close it up, so it feels thinner. That improves just the comfort of carrying the phone around or having it in your pocket. So a lot of these, subtle differences that may not sound like much on paper, in real life actually makes a difference. They actually do make a difference. So those are some of the things to just keep in mind there. But anyway, so let me know what any questions you may have on this phone here. Do you have this phone? Did you pick up one? Are you thinking about buying one? I believe the pre-order deals are all out now, but you can always check out the links down below to see what the latest deals are on the Samsung website. If you have any questions about this, or if you want me to do a second review of this with things that you would like for me to go ahead and test out, let me know in the comment section. I'm going to catch you in that comment section like I always do. Also, make sure to share the video if you know anyone who would be interested. Make sure to like the video, of course. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. I will catch you in the next video, of course. As always, up until that next video, stay safe out there.